उज्ज्वला किब बहु कोटि चंद्रजीनी वदन उज्ज्वला बहु कोटि चंद्रजीनी वदन उज्ज्वला गला देसे बनमाला कोरे जलमाला गला देसे बनमाला कोरे जलमाला किब शिवा शुख नारदा प्रेमे गदा गदा शिवा शुख नारदा प्रेमे गदा गदा किब शिवा शुख नारदा प्रेमे गदा गदा शिवा शुख नारदा प्रेमे गदा गदा भक्ति विनोदा देखे गौरा रसंपादा भक्ति विनोदा कि बजयो जयो गौरा चंदेर आरती के शोभा आरती के शोभा जानावी तातावाने जग मन लोभा जानावी तातावाने जग मन लोभा जानावी तातावाने जग मन लोभा जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद 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 श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद श्री अद्वैत चंद्र जय गौर भक्त वृंद गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो 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 ओ गोविंद बोलो हरि गोपाल बोलो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोल राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो राधे राधे बोलो कृष्णा कृष्णा बोलो, 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 ओ राधे राधे बोलो कृष्णा कृष्णा बोलो, हो राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो, राधा रमन हरि गोविंद बोलो, कृष्णा 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 है, कृष्णा 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 है, कृष्णा 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 है, कृष्णा 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 है, कृष्णा 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 कृष्णा, ओ कृष्णा 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 है, कृष्णा 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 पाहि मां, कृष्णा 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 पाहि मां, ओ कृष्णा केशव कृष्णा केशव कृष्णा केशव रक्ष मां, ओ राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष मां, राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष, राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष मां, ओ राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष मां, राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष मां, राम राघव राम राघव राम राघव रक्ष मां, राम श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम, रघुपति राघव राजा राम, रघुपति राघव राजा राम, रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम, पतित पावन सीता, हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः, हरिहराय यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः, गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदना, गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदना, गिरिधरि गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता, श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री, हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता, हरि गुरु श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ, 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 श्री जीवा गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री जीवा गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, श्री जीवा गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ, ओ हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे, जय राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव श्री राधे, नील माधव राधा नील माधव श्री राधे, जय राधा नील माधव राधा नील माधव श्री राधे, ओ जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे। निताय गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल। निताय गौरा हरि बोल, बोल हरि बोल, हरि बोल। निताय गौरा हरि बोल। जय जय प्रभुपाद, प्रभुपाद, प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद, 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 प्रभुपाद। जय जय प्रभुपाद। ओ जय जय गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव। जय जय गुरुदेव, 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 गुरुदेव। जय। Everyone please bow down. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद हिज डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपा गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की वृंदावन धाम की मथुरा धाम की नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की सामवेद भक्त वृंद की गौर प्रेमानंदे all Guru to the assembled devotee, all Guru to the assembled devotee, all Guru to the assembled devotee, all Guru to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all Guru to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada की नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णमस्ताय भूतले भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचार्य निर्विशेष शून्य और पाशा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।
नमस्ते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लाद लाद दायिने हिरण्यकाशिपूर्वक्षः शीलाटङ्कानकालये तो नरसिंहो परतो नरसिंहो यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंह बहिर्नरसिंहो हृदये नरसिंहो नरसिंहादिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरे नखामद्भुतशृङ्गां दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृङ्गा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय नरसिंहदेव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय भक्त प्रहलाद जय जगन्नाथा जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रामा जय सुदर्शन चक्रा जगन्नाथा जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रामा जय सुदर्शन चक्रा जय सीताराम 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 जय लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय 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 प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय शिला प्रभुपाद की जय
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
kirtan or do you want to sing some bhajan? So we'll sing Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna. Okay, can you please harmony? Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. So if you're not playing harmonium, then you come closer because I cannot hear them enough. Yeah, Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. So you know, or you want to play, or you can play karta.
We don't know actual Kirtan.
चलिए खत्म फिर you can play the karta. Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari 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 Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari. Maharaj will start the class. Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari 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 Karuna Sagar Kamal Nayak Karuna Sagar Kamal Nayak Karuna Sagar Kamal Nayak Karuna Sagar Karuna Sagar Kamal Nayak Karuna Sagar Kanakambara Dhari Gopala Kanakambara Dhari Gopala Kanaka Ambar Dhari Gopala Kanaka Ambar Dhari Gopala Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari 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 O Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari Jai Jai Krishna Mukunda Murari कंसनिषूदन कालियमार्दन कंसनिषूदन कालियमार्दन कंसनिषूदन कालियमार्दन कंसनिषूदन कालियमार्दन कमलयतनयन गोपाला कमलयतनयन गोपाला कमलयतनयन गोपाला कमलयतनयन गोपाला जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी ओ जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी ओ जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी 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 गोपी जन मन मोहन ध्यापक गोपी जन मन मोहन ध्यापक गोपी जन मन मोहन ध्यापक कुवलया दल नीला गोपाला कुवलया दल नीला गोपाला जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी 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 जय जय कृष्णा मुकुंद मुरारी
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No, make this shorter. Make this shorter. Make this. Bring the. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now make it higher. Make it higher. Okay. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's everybody chant together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Louder. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, Haribo, Haribo. Well, that was our class today, so we can adjourn. No, I'm just kidding. This chanting of Hare Krishna is called Yuga Dharma, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra ki jai. Yuga means the age that we're living in, and that is Kali Yuga. And Dharma means the recommended way by which we can be liberated from the cycle of birth and death. So, Hare Krishna Yuga Deva Maha Mantra Ki Jai means that we should always be chanting Hare Krishna, or at least thinking about Krishna always in our life. That way, practice makes perfect. You'll be able to remember Krishna at the moment of death and go back to the spiritual world. So if you don't practice, then you probably will only think of your 401k or somebody who cheated you, or what's going to happen to my family after I'm dead, and you won't go back to Godhead. So we have to be able to focus our mind on Krishna as much as possible throughout the 24 hours of the day and throughout all the years of our life. That way, it'll be easy to remember Krishna at the moment of death. The moment of death is a very, let's say, for most people, a very stressful moment. Oftentimes, people are sick. They might be in the hospital. They might be very stressed because of sickness and whatever. So to be able to think of Krishna at the moment of death is not that easy. However, if you practice, then practice makes perfect. Then you cannot think of anything else but Krishna. So that's why we chant Hare Krishna every day with our beads. We have our beads, and there are 108 beads, and 109th bead is Krishna bead, and we're chanting on them. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, if you don't have these chanting beads, you can get them tonight. We have it in our little store back there. It's very important to chant Hare Krishna. Why? Because if you can remember Krishna at the moment of death, you go back to the spiritual world. But practice makes perfect. So it's important that we chant throughout our life while we still have health, we still have a clear mind, and we have some period of time ahead of us that we're going to be alive. We never know when we're going to die. But a devotee always thinks that he'll die in the next minute. And a materialist thinks he's going to live forever. Oh, here's my friend Radhika. Radhika, how are you? No, it's all right. You hold on to it. Yeah. I always have Radhika whenever I give a lecture because it's important to see cows. Yeah. So that we learn not to eat cows. That's like the biggest mistake you can make in your life if you eat a cow or cow meat. So Radhika is a very fine lady. She is always comes and is very gentle in the temple. And she likes to be cuddled. So thank you for bringing Radhika. And this is Janavatsal Prabhu. He's the biggest cuddler of Radhika. Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit about a philosopher named George Berkeley. Berkeley is very famous. Why? Because he was arguing against objective reality. Now, of course, is this world real or is it false? We can ask ourselves that question. Obviously, what we're doing now, tomorrow, you'll forget about it. Even if you remember something about it, it already, even though it happened the night before, you won't be so clear on exactly what happened. And next year, this time, you will have forgotten everything about what's happening tonight. So our problem is we're forgetful. And to build up our ability to remember things, the recommended thing is to always chant Hare Krishna. Because you were repeating the mantra at least 1,700 times during the day. That means you're chanting 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So that way we get into the habit of always remembering Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. If you can remember Krishna, especially at the moment of death, you go back to the spiritual world. And you never know, nobody knows when they're going to die. It could happen any time. Therefore, this chanting of Hare Krishna is absolutely important. And what does the mantra means? What does it mean? Well, first of all, we're talking to Radharani, Krishna's eternal consort. And we say, oh, my dear Radharani. And then we're saying Krishna, oh, dear Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we're saying Rama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also. It's another incarnation of Krishna. So as soon as we say the mantra, we're in the association of the most exalted people in the history of the world. That is Radharani, that is Krishna, and that is Rama, and of course, wherever Rama is, Sita is also. So now we're in the association of the greatest people in the world. And if we continue chanting, they take notice of us. They say, oh, there's so many people that don't chant my names. There's so many people that are forgetting me. But this person is remembering me and chanting my holy names. I will protect this person. I will give this person special knowledge of how to understand me. And I will make sure that this person comes back to the spiritual world. So, therefore, there are many benefits in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The number one benefit is that you have a great chance of being liberated at the moment of death and go back to Vaikuntha, the place where there is no anxiety. It's only love and devotion in Vaikuntha. So this philosopher named George Berkeley, a Britisher, he seems to argue against objective reality. For instance, 3 men standing in a field looking at a tree could all have different impressions or ideas of the tree. The problem is that although there are different impressions of the tree, there is no tree as such. Now, how does the tree as such exist? In the mind of God, it is possible for a conditioned living entity to perceive the suchness or the essence of something. That's the question. Is it possible that a conditioned living entity, we're all conditioned living entities, can perceive the existence or essence of anything? Well, you see, this is a philosophical question. Is it possible for us to perceive things correctly? Most people don't. Like, for example, a mother perceives her child with love and protection and devotion. A child molester sees the same child with the desire to exploit the child and in different ways control the child for their own sense gratification. So, therefore, this question of darshan, how to see, is very important. When you come to lectures like this, and when you read the Shastra, you're being taught how to see things correctly. When you read novels, books, different types of books, they'll teach you how to see things differently than what is taught in spiritual sciences. So the whole question of darshan, how to see, is very important. So when we look at another person, the correct way to see them is to understand that they have an eternal soul. And their soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So at the same time, when you look at a person correctly, you see them as an eternal soul who has an eternal relationship with Krishna. That's the correct way to see. How many people actually see like that? Very few. People say, oh, he's got a big nose, or he has big feet, or he talks too loudly, or he's a greedy person. They just see the outside, let's say, characteristics of the person. They don't see the person himself or herself. To see a person himself or herself, you have to have spiritual knowledge. And therefore, Krishna teaches that in the Bhagavad Gita, how to see correctly. And the first point is, you must see through the prism of the teachings of acharyas. That's the best way to see. So acharyas, or great devotees, genuine devotees, they'll teach you to see not the body, but the soul of the person. That means you're seeing things correctly now. And whether it's a bird or a cow or a person, everyone and everything has a soul. When I say everything, does the tree have a soul? Yes, it does. Do animals have souls? Yes, they do. Do human beings have souls? Yes, they do. Now we're seeing correctly. Therefore, we should not in any way harm a living entity, whether it's a germ or a cow or a person. We should respect life. Why? Because if we kill living entities, knowingly or unknowingly, we will have karma. And that karma can accumulate and eventually something horrible can happen to you. So we have to be very careful. Now, when you drive a car, it's a fact, you kill many living entities. And when you exercise or jog, you're killing living entities. When you eat, you're killing living entities. So we're actually killing living entities every day. And that is, you cannot avoid it. So is there a solution to this? Yes. If you're only engaged in devotional service, Krishna protects you from all that bad karma, the karma of killing. Not that you want to kill anyone, but you can't help it. Just walking down the street, you're killing ants and other living entities. Just driving your car, you're killing living entities. And when you're eating, you're killing living entities. So, therefore, what is the solution? The solution is only engaging in devotional service to Krishna. In that way, you are protected from all that bad karma. As soon as we go out of that, let's say, that magic circle of serving Krishna, we're open to karma, and we're open to a lot of sinful activities. And we have to be very, very careful not to commit sins. You can commit sins knowingly, you can commit sins unknowingly. So most people are committing many sins unknowingly, and because of that, different things happen. They can have accidents, they can get cancer, they can, have all kinds of different miseries. And they ask the question, why did this happen to me? I don't remember doing anything wrong. Well, just simply eating and sleeping and mating and defending and driving a car, you're going to be killing living entities. And even though you don't want to do that, you'll still be forced to do that by nature. Therefore, it's very important to always chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To protect yourself from all that unseen karma, or in other words, you don't even realize you're killing living entities, but everybody is killing living entities, especially when you drive a car or walk down the street, and even when you breathe, you're killing living entities. You can't help it. When you eat also. For a person who is materialistic, only thinks about making money, doesn't believe what we say here about killing living entities, they are not interested in this type of knowledge. And because of that, many strange things happen to them. All kinds of accidents, family problems, and money problems, and stressful mentality. All this is due to the unwitting killing that we're doing. So, how do we become conscious of that killing? Well, we cannot avoid it. One animal has to kill another animal to exist. So that's true about living entities also. So whenever you eat something, let's say a tomato is a living entity. It has a soul also, just like we do. But you eat the tomato not thinking twice about it. But actually, you should understand that this is the tomato is also a living entity. Anything that grows is living. And therefore, a tree also is a living entity. So therefore, some things are given to us as food. So even though they're living entities, they're permitted, such as tomatoes and oranges and so forth. But there are other things that are forbidden, such as meat, fish, eggs, because all of those are coming from living entities. So there are different degrees of consciousness of the living entities. So a tomato has less consciousness than, let's say, a cow. And tomatoes are given to us as food. So we have certain things that are permitted to be eaten by Krishna's mercy. So you can eat vegetables, you can eat tomato, which is actually a fruit. It's not actually a vegetable. And you can drink milk, and so certain things are set aside for us by Krishna for consumption. But there are many, many more things that are not set aside for us as consumption, such as cows and other types of living entities. So we have to learn these things and be very careful about how we live. We should have a sattvic life. That means a life in the mode of goodness, where we avoid unnecessary killing. So killing a cow is unnecessary. We have so many vegetables today and so many nice things like milk and vegetables and nuts and so forth. So it's not necessary to kill cows. But yet, there's massive cow killing in the United States, and there's massive consumption of meat. That's all because of ignorance. And what's the result? The result is there's always war, there's always stress, there's always fear, and there's always troubles in life. Why are there troubles? Because people are unwittingly committing sins. So a sin is something that violates the laws of material nature. So Krishna has set aside for every living entity their food. Just like we see right now, Radhika is drinking milk. That's set aside for her. That's what she should drink. She's a young girl. She's only 4 months old. And if you give her meat, she won't eat it. If you give her pizza, she won't eat it. Her food, her best food is milk. Look, she just finished that whole bottle. And she'll be able to drink 1 or 2 quarts of milk at a time. You see? Just like a baby. While she is a baby, she's only 4 months old. So Krishna has set aside for all living entities their food. And their bodily construction is made in such a way to eat that type of food. For example, a tiger has 30 sharp teeth. That's why a tiger eats meat. But human beings, we only have 2 canines in our mouths, you see, because that means we can use them for maybe eating, different things that are a little harder to eat. But it's not meant for eating meat. But the cow has a perfect, an animal has a perfect intestinal tract and teeth for eating meat. Not the cow, but let's say a tiger. Number one, the intestines of a tiger is very short. The human intestine is 25 feet long. The tiger, intestine is very short, maybe like 8 feet long. The teeth of the tiger are very sharp. We only have 2 sharp teeth, 2 canines. So the tiger is meant to eat meat. We are not meant to eat meat. We can if we want to, but actually there's a real problem. Number one problem is the length of our intestine is about 25 feet. Just imagine, you have an intestine that's 25 feet long. That's a long period, that's a long, let's say, trajectory for the food to go from, let's say, a lemon meringue pie to stool. And it can stay a relatively long time in your body, and it can begin to putrefy and cause different diseases. So, but the cow, I mean, not the cow, but the tiger, it has a very short intestine and a lot of sharp teeth. So he can tear apart the meat that it's eating and then try and digest the proteins and then get rid of it very quickly. So you see, the bodily constitution differs from one species to another. And we can tell what which species is meant to eat meat and which species is not meant to eat meat. The human body is not made for eating meat. You can do it, but you will eventually suffer because of it. And because we have a very long intestine and we don't have a lot of canine teeth, so we will not be able to tear apart a piece of meat that we eat like an animal can, and then it'll have to travel through a very, very long intestine, which means usually things get stuck in the intestinal tract and they putrefy, and now people have bad smells, and then eventually they get cancer, and eventually they die. So we should understand what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. But the way to understand that and clearly is to read Shastra, as we do. We're reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day in the temple. It teaches us all these things, what we're meant to do, what we're not meant to do. So here in this book, which is called Dialectic Spiritualism, it says, it's a book that His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was asked many questions about ancient and modern philosophers. And he gave his opinions after hearing what the philosopher's opinion was. So in one philosopher called George Berkeley, the following was said by a disciple of Prabhupada. And he read, Berkeley seems to argue against objective reality. For instance, 3 men standing in a field looking at a tree could all have different impressions or ideas of the tree. The problem is that although there are 3 different impressions of the tree, there is no tree as such. Now, how does the tree as such exist? In the mind of God? Is it possible for a conditioned living entity to perceive the reality or essence of anything? So this is a philosophical question. And Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, replied, since everything is God, that means everything in this world originally comes from God. We also come from God. The animals come from God. Everything comes from God. So since everything is God, or an expansion of God's energy, how can a tree or anything else exist independent of God? A clay pot is not different from earth. Since there is nothing but God's energy, how can we avoid God? Since nothing can exist independent of God, whatever we see must refer to God. As soon as we see a clay pot, we remember the potter. God is not only the original creator, he is the ingredient, the category, and the original substance as well. According to the Vedic conception, God is everything. That is a non-dual conception. If you separate anything from God, you cannot say, Sarvam Klav Idam Brahma, from the Chandogya Upanishad. Everything is Brahman. Everything refers to God, and everything is God's property. Therefore, whatever exists should be utilized for God's service. And that is the object of our Krishna consciousness movement. You see, we're not being educated really in schools. We're being actually given ignorance rather than knowledge. What I just read is genuine knowledge. And the more we give up the speculative so-called knowledge that's taught in schools, and there's so many books about that, and begin to understand real knowledge, we'll be happier and we'll be trained to make the right decisions in life, and we'll be able to remember Krishna at the moment of death and go back to the spiritual world. So now one of Prabhupada's disciples asks a question. He says, Berkeley, that's the philosopher we're reading about, maintained that nothing exists outside perception. Matter is simply perceived. For instance, this table is only an immaterial substance which enters in my mind. It is not made of matter. Then Srila Prabhupada answered, then what is your mind? Is the mind also immaterial? This is the Sunyavadi position. They believe that everything is zero. And then the devotee says, but Berkeley says that everything is spiritual, not zero. Prabhupada, the spiritual is not an idea, but a fact. The Sunyavadis cannot understand how spirit has form. They have no idea of Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Sat means eternity, Chit means knowledge, Ananda means happiness, and Vigraha means having a form. In other words, you have a body and it's made up of Sat Chit Vigraha, knowledge and happiness, and obviously a form, and so forth. So our spiritual form of bliss, they really have no idea of spiritual existence. We have two types of existence. One is spiritual and one is material. Now, when we only have knowledge of material things and not spiritual things, we're not acting as a human being. But when we have knowledge of spiritual things and material things, now we're becoming to act like a human being. Now we see Radhika, here she is right now, licking Janavatsal's arm. Now Radhika only has realization of material things. She doesn't have any spiritual thoughts. But she's a good girl, you say. But we as human beings, we can understand material things and spiritual things, and also understand our relationship with God. Radhika cannot understand her relationship with God, and she doesn't have a clear understanding of spiritual things at all. She just has understandings of material things. So that's the difference between an animal and a human being. But however, there are human beings that don't have any understanding of spiritual things and commit a lot of sinful activities, and of course they suffer unnecessarily. So therefore, it's very important to be educated, especially hearing Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the greatest book in the history of the world. It was spoken originally 140 billion years ago. So it's the oldest book in the world, and it gives correct understanding of who you are, who God is, and what is the material nature, and how to use the material nature in the service of God or Krishna. So when we hear spiritual knowledge, we begin to understand what is seen and what is not seen. So what we see is not always real. Like, for example, you can see a mirage on a hot day driving down a asphalt road, and ahead of you, it looks like there is water on the ground, but actually there's no water. It's an optical illusion. So our seeing capacity is not so good. When you look at a human being, you might only see external qualities of that person and misunderstand who that person is. So our seeing has to be corrected through our ears. We should hear about things through the Vedic literature. The Vedic literature will correct our imperfect seeing. So when we see a cow, we should understand a cow is a sacred animal. Why? Because Krishna protected cows. Krishna was a cowherd boy. He would go out with cows every day, take them out for going to pasture, and he would love them. So a cow is a very special living entity. But yet, in the United States, they eat over 50,000 cows a year. You see, this is why this country has a lot of problems, social problems and weather problems, money problems, societal problems, and so forth. Why? Because unwittingly, they're eating cows and other animals unnecessarily. So, how do we correct these errors? We have to hear Vedic knowledge. That's what Bhagavad Gita is. It's Vedic knowledge. And it teaches us not to eat cows. Rather than eating cows, we should protect cows. Just like many times I get phone calls because people find out that I have a lot of cows. They're usually Muslims, and they call up and they say, "You have cow?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "How much they cost?" I said, "We don't sell them." He said, "What? Why don't you sell them?" I said, "Because we protect them." He said, "Why you protect them? You can sell them and make money." I said, "No, we don't want to sell cows and make money. We want to protect cows. We want to love cows. And that's our culture." He said, "I don't understand." I said, "Yeah, of course you don't understand, but you should understand that we're not going to sell you any cows." They call me up to buy a cow, right? Because they find out that we have a lot of cows. So this is called ignorance. For Muslims, eating cows is okay. And for Krishna conscious people, eating cows is very wrong. So here we see two diametrically different concepts. And that's all right. If the Muslim wants to eat cows, I mean, you can't stop him. He can eat all the cows he wants, but he'll be committing sinful activities, even though he thinks he's not committing sinful activities. So this is the problem. People can be committing sins unwittingly because they're not educated properly. Therefore, we have classes in this temple, in all the temples that we have. You can take part in all the classes and understand what is the right way and what is the wrong way to live in life. The wrong way to live in life is to be a meat eater, a gambler, illicit sex, and intoxication. That's the wrong way to live. And the right way to live is to chant Hare Krishna, eat only Krishna Prasadam, and also hear lectures given by bona fide devotees, and also come out with us on Harinam Sankirtan. Now we're in the right position for going back to Godhead. But if you avoid all that, you just watch television and eat meat and smoke and drink and have illicit sex, well, you're completely violating the human body and the purpose of human life. The purpose of human life is to be educated and engaged in the devotional service of the Lord so you can go back to Godhead. Without devotional service, we will never be able to go back to Godhead. Therefore, seva is what we do in this temple. Everyone comes, they bow down to the deities, they bring gifts for the deities, they hear about Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they chant and dance and also learn the shastric knowledge, and in that way they live a life of what you would call sattvic life, in the mode of goodness, and in which they avoid committing sinful activities. Knowingly or unknowingly, they avoid sinful activities, and at the moment of death, they're able to remember Krishna and go back to the spiritual world. So that should be our goal. Our goal is not just to collect money all the time and spend it on nonsense things. Our goal should be to prepare ourselves to go back to the spiritual world, because that's where we came from. Obviously, we all made some mistakes. That's why we have a material body covering our soul, and we're in the material world where there's birth, death, old age, and disease. It's because we made some mistakes. But now we can correct those mistakes by getting the right information. So reading Bhagavad Gita is the right information. The Bhagavad Gita is all about Krishna, who is speaking about himself to Arjuna. So there's no better scripture in the whole universe than the Bhagavad Gita, because it's God explaining who he is to Arjuna and at the same time to us. So that's why Bhagavad Gita is the greatest scripture in the history of the world. And it is undoubtedly the oldest scripture in the history of the world, the oldest book in the history of the world. It was first spoken by Krishna to Surya Deva millions and millions of years ago. So there's no other book as old as the Bhagavad Gita. And what does the Bhagavad Gita teach? Well, it teaches 5 things. Who is Krishna? Who is the living entity? And in other words, who is God? Who are the living entities? And what is the purpose of life? And so forth. So this is the most essential knowledge that you can get. If you're going to buy a book, you only need to read one book. It's called Bhagavad Gita. Now you'll have all knowledge. You can read other books and get, let's say, misled. But if you read this one book, you will not be misled. You'll be led in the right direction toward Vaikuntha, the spiritual world, and through the teachings of the acharyas, or pure devotees. Okay, so in this dialogue between His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and his disciple, and talking about the philosopher Berkeley, he was a British philosopher, and the disciple says, Berkeley maintained that nothing exists outside perception. Matter is simply perceived. For instance, this table is only an immaterial substance which enters my mind. It is not made of matter. Of course, that's a false statement. This is what the philosopher Berkeley was saying. And Prabhupada's answer is, then what is your mind? Is the mind also immaterial? This is the Sunyavadi position. They believe that everything is zero. The Sunyavadi are people who don't believe that God is a person. And they make all these false definitions and concepts. Then the devotee says, at Berkeley, the philosopher who we're reading about now, says that everything is spiritual, not zero. And then His Divine Grace Prabhupada says, the spiritual is not an idea, but a fact. The Sunyavadis, or the Mayavadis, the impersonalists, cannot understand how spirit has form. They have no idea of Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. Sat means eternity, Chit means knowledge, Ananda means transcendental happiness, and Vigraha means a form. Our spiritual form of bliss. They really have no idea of spiritual existence. Now the devotee says, but Berkeley says that everything has form, but that it is not made of matter. And then Srila Prabhupada says, that is nice, everything has form. It is not necessary that the form be material. We say that God has a spiritual form. Okay, so that's a practical statement by Prabhupada. Then the devotee says, but Berkeley goes on so far as to say that everything is made of spirit. And Srila Prabhupada says, yes, in the higher sense, everything is spirit. We always say that materialism means forgetfulness of Krishna. As soon as we dovetail everything to Krishna, nothing is material but spiritual. Then the devotee says, Berkeley uses the example of a book on a table. The only way the book exists is through the idea or sense perception, sense impression in the mind. It doesn't enter the mind as matter, but as spirit, something immaterial. Srila Prabhupada says, if it is not matter, it is spirit. If everything is spirit, why distinguish between idea of the book and the book? Then the devotee says, well, for him there is no difference. Srila Prabhupada says, but he explains that the book is not material. If everything is spiritual, the idea is spiritual as well as the book. Why make the distinction? Sarvam klav idam brahma, the Chandogya Upanishad 3.14.1. If everything is Brahman, why make these distinctions between the idea of the book and the book? Why is he trying so hard to attempt to explain? And the devotee says, he also states that God creates all objects. Prabhupada says, yes, that's right. And because God creates all objects, there is no object that is not true. We cannot say that something false comes from something true. If God is truth, then whatever emanates from God is also truth. It is Mayavad philosophy to say that everything that we see is false. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. That's what the impersonalists, Brahman Mayavadis say, that only the matter is true and the world, only Brahman is true and the material world is false. That actually is a false statement. And now the devotee says, no, he says, it is real because God perceives it, Srila Prabhupada. If it is real, and my idea of it is real, then everything is real. Why make these distinctions? Our philosophy is that there cannot be these distinctions. If the world emanates from God, can it be false? If everything is spiritual, why does he make the distinctions in saying that it is not matter, that is something else? As soon as we bring up the subject of matter, we imply that matter is something separately existing. In other words, there is duality. As soon as you say that this is not matter, you are making matter into something that it is not, that is not true. If everything emanates from God, if everything emanates from God and is true, there is no question of there being anything that is not true. If everything is spiritual, we cannot make these distinctions. When we say this is not matter, when a person says this is not matter, he implies that there is matter somewhere. If everything is spiritual, there is no question of material existence. Okay, so these are, Prabhupada is correcting improper or incorrect statements that are being made. So the devotee says, this philosopher, Berkeley, says that there are two types of objects. Those which are actively sense, perceptive, and experience, and those which are passively sensed and perceived and experienced. Both are basically the same because they are equally spiritual. And Srila Prabhupada answers, but two types means duality. How does he distinguish between this type and that type? He distinguishes between the senses and the objects of the senses. If everything is spiritual, we can say that there is spiritual variety. But the senses and the objects of the senses are all real. And then the devotee says, no, Berkeley says that they are real and made of spirit. They are not real in the sense that they are made of matter. And Prabhupada says, I do not understand this logic. If everything is spiritual, why is he making these distinctions? There is no need to make such distinctions if you are spiritually realized. Rather, you can say that these are spiritual varieties. For instance, you can say that a stone is not water, that air is not stone, that water is not air, and so on. These are all spiritual varieties. The exact Sanskrit word is savishaya, which indicates that everything is spirit, but that there is variety. Okay, so this point that everything is spiritual, that's a fact. Matter is also spiritual. Why? Because matter is coming from Krishna, so it has to be spiritual. I say, we might misunderstand matter as being something different than spiritual, but everything is coming from Krishna originally, so everything is actually spiritual. However, when we use things not in the service of Krishna, they become material to us. So a person who's using, let's say, marijuana, he's using something that's an intoxicant, and obviously everything in his life will be corrupted by misunderstanding. Marijuana can be used in a proper way. You can make nice clothing with it. There's a lot of nice clothing that's made with marijuana. But when you use it for intoxicating yourself, that's the wrong way of using it. So there's always a right way and a wrong way. But you'll never know what the right way is unless you actually read Bhagavad Gita and hear Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees. Okay, so there are many different philosophers in the history of the world. This book, which is called Dialectic Spiritualism, is a book in which the devotees told Prabhupada about different philosophers, and he gave his opinions about it. And every philosopher always has a different, philosophy than another philosopher. But the real philosophy is to understand that everything comes from God or Krishna. Therefore, everything is spiritual, whether it is matter or whether it is spirit. Nothing is independent of Krishna. As soon as we understand that, then we have, when we develop the spiritual vision. Spiritual vision is to see how everything is connected to Krishna or God, and nothing is independent of Krishna. The way materialists see things, they see that matter is different than spirit, and they use matter in one way, and they ignore its relationship to God. That is mistaken philosophy. Nothing is independent of Krishna. When you use things for sense gratification, you're now a materialist. If you use the same things in the service of God, and now you're a spiritualist, because everything is originally coming from God or Krishna, everything material and everything spiritual. But matter is also spiritual because it's coming from God. As soon as people say, no, matter is different, it's material, you make a mistake. Everything in the material, in this world, everything is emanated from God, so everything is actually spiritual. Things only seem to be different when we use them for sense gratification. When we use everything in the service of Krishna, then everything, you will be able to see the spiritual reality of everything. So, you can use a tomato in the service of Krishna by offering it to Krishna and then eating it. Or you can just eat the tomato. Now you're not seeing its spiritual connection to God. You think it's a material thing, and you're eating it for sustenance only, and not with any connection to God. But nothing is independent of Krishna. So that is the beginning of knowledge, to see like that. That's the first thing we should teach our children, that all things are connected and coming originally from Krishna. But what people learn eventually in schools and colleges is that the material world has nothing to do with God. Therefore, they don't understand what is sin. Sin is misusing something that could be used in the service of God. So people are using so many things without understanding that those things should be used in God's service. So therefore they are sinful, and they suffer unnecessarily. But if you begin to use everything in the service of Krishna, now you're seeing correctly, and you're no longer committing sinful activity. And that is called spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge means you learn how to use everything in the service of Krishna. So therefore, we're not denying anything. Like a cow is also a spiritual entity. Just like the cow does almost everything that we do, right? Eat, sleep, mate, and defend. The only difference is the cow cannot understand its relationship with Krishna, but a human being can. Therefore, when a person is a real human being, they protect cows. And when a person is a savage, low-class person, they eat cows. So that's why I bring Radhika all the time to the temple. You can see what a wonderful animal she is, right? She's sitting here very, very pleasantly, and you can pet her, and she's not running away, and she makes you feel very happy that there's such an animal like this. You know, it's different than a dog. The dog would be running all over the place right now. But the cow is sitting down very, very peacefully, and even when she passes stool and urine, it's also wonderful, because the stool and urine of cow is actually pure. It's not contaminated, whereas the stool and urine of a dog is contaminated. So you are getting dirtied by the stool and urine of the dog, but the stool and urine of Radhika is purifying. So these are strange things. You might think, oh no, this is stool, it's not good. But no, you can do a lot of good things with the cow dung. The cow dung is used as for healing different sicknesses. The cow dung is used as fertilizer. The cow dung is used in many different ways. You can dry it and use it to cook with, to heat your food and so forth. So, and then also Radhika gives milk. So milk is the best food. Of course, there are a lot of vegans that say, oh no, don't drink milk, it's bad. It's complete nonsense what they say. No, milk is the most important food that you can have. Some people are saying, oh, I'm lactose intolerant. Well, you're lactose intolerant because you've been eating the wrong things. You can become lactose tolerant if you give up eating those nonsense things and eat only sattvic foods. So there are many misconceptions in life. You have to come to the temple and hear or read Bhagavad Gita to get rid of all those misconceptions and live a very cultured life of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. I'm sure you don't agree with everything I say. Are there any questions? You can ask questions. If you don't ask any questions, you won't learn anything. If you have to ask questions, you might remember the answer for the rest of your life. If you read a book, you won't remember much. If you ask a question and get the answer, you might remember that the rest of your life. That's how important questions are. So does anybody have a question to ask? Don't raise your hands all at the same time. Anybody? You have a question, probably? No, you have a question?
Maharaj, the
Yes.
book that you read from, what is it called?
This is called the dialectic spiritualism. Now, this word dialectic is very interesting. You know what spiritualism means. Dialectic spiritualism means that it is a philosophical word, and it means how you actually perceive things, right? Like a person that's a thief, he perceives something that belongs to you as something that should belong to him, and therefore come and try and steal it from you, you say. But if you see things correctly, then you understand, okay, this is something that belongs to someone else. I should not steal it. I should not take it away from them. So everything depends on how you see things. And that's what dialectical spiritualism is. It's seeing things correctly. So we should see everything as belonging to Krishna, including our own body and mind. Everything belongs to Krishna. So when we see like that, then we come to the conclusion that real knowledge is to learn how to use everything in Krishna's service. Now we've become really educated. Did they teach you that in school? No. No. They're teaching you ignorance in school, how to use everything for your own sense gratification. That's what they teach you in school. But the real thing is, real knowledge is how to use everything in Krishna's service. If you use everything in Krishna's service, you'll go back to Godhead. If you use everything selfishly for your own sense gratification, well, you'll end up in Narak. You don't want to go to hell. Say, Narak is hell. Hell means that you made many, many mistakes, even without realizing it. And now you're in a very difficult situation. But the difference between Christianity and Krishna consciousness is that the Christians think if you go to hell, that's it, you're finished, you can never get out, and you'll suffer forever. But in Krishna consciousness, we know that if you go to hell, you can easily be liberated from hell if you hear genuine, saintly people speak. So saintly people, like Narada Muni, sometimes goes to hell. Not that he's been sinful, but he goes there to chant Hare Krishna and help people come back to the material world and have another chance to go back to Godhead. Right? So no one is eternally damned in Krishna consciousness. Everyone has a chance to straighten themselves and go back to Godhead. Whereas the Christians, they say, if you go to hell, that's it, you're finished, you can never get out. So that's completely false, right? And they try and scare you like that. They say, if you don't become a Christian now, you'll go to hell and you will suffer forever. You ever hear anybody speak like that? You have?
Yes, Maharaj, in Sankirtan.
In school?
Sankirtan.
Oh, Sankirtan, yeah. That's why it's good to go on Sankirtan. You can hear everything there. You can learn philosophy by going on Sankirtan. Okay, so that's not our philosophy. Even if you go to hell, you can still be saved. Why? Because people like Narada Muni go to hell and help people become liberated from hellish existence and become devotees and eventually go back to the spiritual world. So Krishna consciousness is what you would call the ultimate welfare work. The ultimate welfare work is to teach a person how to become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. Right? It's not simply feeding the poor people. The ultimate welfare is to teach people to become Krishna conscious so they go back to Godhead. That's real welfare work. Right? Are there any questions anybody would like to ask? Or comments? Or confessions? No, you don't have to confess anything. In the Catholic Church, they have confession. Some people come, once a month and confess. That's because they'll confess, and then they'll go back and commit sins. They have to come back again to confess. But if you don't commit any sins, then you don't have to confess anything. So that's Krishna consciousness. We teach people not to commit sins, whereas in the Catholic Church, they say, well, you can commit sins, but you'll come in and confess and give some money also to the priest, and that's the way we can make the temple financially, let's say, viable. But no, we don't want people to come and confess. We want people to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness and not have to confess anything. If you make a mistake, yes, you can confess the mistakes and get the right knowledge, but that right knowledge will lead you not to commit sinful activity anymore. That's what we are teaching. Now, there are many things that are sinful that people don't even know that those things are sinful, such as eating meat and gambling. You know how many people gamble in the United States? It's thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that gamble. And it's completely forbidden in Krishna consciousness. And you know how many people eat meat? Hundreds and millions of people are eating meat. And that's also not permitted in Krishna consciousness. So many, many people are making mistakes in this world. But if you're lucky enough to hear Vedic knowledge given by genuine devotees, you can avoid all those mistakes and have a very, very, what you would call peaceful and constructive life, where you do all good things for yourself and for others. Any other questions? You have another question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
So if the Christians think that there's only heaven or hell, then why do they commit so many sins?
If people think what?
If Christians think that there's
Yeah.
only heaven and hell
Yeah.
after life, then why do they commit so many sins?
No, they think that if you go to hell, you can never get out, right? And it's completely wrong. Right. Why? Why? Because they don't have proper knowledge. They don't have any proper gurus. Let's put it like that. And they have these misconceptions that if you go to hell, you're stuck. You can never get out. It's not true. Why? If that's true, then God is a nasty person, you're saying. But God is not a nasty person. Even if you go to hell, you can still be saved by the mercy of genuine devotees like Narada Muni, who goes to hell and preaches to the people there to help them come back to the material world and then correct themselves, become Krishna conscious, and now they can go back to the spiritual world, you see. So God is not a mean person, but the way the Christians present God, it looks like he's a mean guy. If you go to hell, you can never be liberated, they say. You see, that's to scare you. And they also say you only live once. That's also false. It's not true. You have an eternal soul, and you can be born over and over again in the material world, or you can be liberated from the material world, but you will never die because you have an eternal soul. They don't teach that. They teach you that, if you die, that's it, you're finished. Have you ever heard that? Yeah, they try and scare you like that. They say. So we don't try and scare people. We try and give people hope. And we don't we don't paint an image of God as being a nasty person. God is not nasty at all. He's completely merciful. And he's a happy person, and he's beautiful, And the Christians, they paint pictures of God with gray hair and mustaches, and it looks like an old man. God never gets old. So Christians have many mistakes about spiritual life. But in Krishna consciousness, Krishna's he looks always like 16 to 20 years old. He never gets old. That's God. He's not an old man with gray hair and so forth. He doesn't have a material body. He has a spiritual body. So, therefore, there's a lot of misconceptions in this world today. Any other questions anyone would like to ask? Okay, no questions, and there's no answers, and we're getting close to 9 o'clock. That means that we should take rest very soon so we can wake up very early tomorrow morning and chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. See now, Radhika, she can't chant Hare Krishna, right? But she will in her next life because she's going to take birth as a human being. Why? Because she's eating only prasadam. She's hearing Vedic knowledge, and she has become very, very peaceful, right? She's sitting here, it's not fidgeting, trying to run away. And so she's hearing, and she has bigger ears than we do. So she can hear even more loudly than we do. Yeah, so we have to respect cows. Why? Because Krishna loved cows. He's a cowherd boy. That's what Krishna does every day. He takes all the cows he has, and he has millions of cows. He takes them all out to pasture, and he spends the whole day with the cows, playing and having fun, and then he brings the cows back home. So therefore, if you want to have Krishna's, let's say, protection and you want Krishna to notice you, they should take care of cows, because that's what he does. He's a cowherd boy. Haribol. Okay, so it's getting close to 9 o'clock and close to bedtime. So if you don't have any more questions, or if you have something you want to say, go ahead and say it right now, or stay quiet for the rest of your life. Haribol. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances.
Oh, glories to Prabhupada.
Maharaj, we know that cow is the animal who is in the mode of goodness, and that's why cow's urine and cow's stool is pure and is purifying. And also, growing up, I heard from my parents that there are multiple gods and goddesses who reside in the body of the cow. And that is why cow is worshipable. So how do I understand that cow being an animal in the mode of goodness and with so many gods and goddesses residing in the body of the cow is not able to understand Krishna or realize Krishna?
Well, first of all, Krishna is in the body of everyone. And Krishna never is alone. Wherever Krishna is, all the demigods and all, spiritual persons are with him. So, therefore, it's not only the cow that has all the spiritual, let's say, personalities in his body. In your body also, Krishna is there, and Krishna, wherever he is, all the great saints are there also. So we shouldn't make that distinction that only the cow has all these saintly people in its body or has presence in his body. Krishna, wherever Krishna is, all the other living entities are with him, and especially the saintly persons. So we should see things like that. We shouldn't separate Krishna from or people in general from our bodies. Krishna is present everywhere, and wherever Krishna is, everything else is there also. So when you look at the animal has limitations, right? and it's karmic. It's because of the karma. But the animal can be treated in such a way that in its next life it can be a human being. And that's what we're doing with Radhika. We're training her so that in her next life she'll become a human being. You can train any living entity, except maybe snakes. Right? Snakes are pretty hard to train. But almost most animals can be trained, like dogs can be trained to be somewhat spiritually inclined, because you're feeding them prasadam and you're letting them hear spiritual lectures and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So animals have many attributes for hearing, and because of that, they have a chance of becoming liberated by hearing those things. So there are birds. There are birds that you can teach them how to chant Hare Krishna, and they chant Hare Krishna. They go, Hare Krishna, you know. Now, do they understand what they're saying? Maybe not. But they can be trained to say Hare Krishna. So we should see all living entities as having eternal souls, just like we do, but their body is limiting them. But if they're given prasadam and they're hearing Hare Krishna, just like Prabhupada once said, you can also preach to ants. What you do is you take 1 grain of sugar and put it in the path of the ant, and you go like this, Hare Krishna. Now you're helping the ant also become Krishna conscious. So Krishna consciousness is universal mercy. You can go into a forest and chant Hare Krishna, you're helping all the living entities in the trees. Trees are living entities, right? But they were very sinful in their previous life. Now you're helping them by going into the forest and chanting Hare Krishna loudly. You see. So this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is Yuga Dharma Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Ki Jai. It's the recommended way to make spiritual advancement, not only for yourself, but for everybody else that hears you chanting Hare Krishna. Okay? So we should help all living entities become Krishna conscious. The ants, the trees, the birds, the dogs, everybody can become Krishna conscious by hearing someone purely chant the holy name of the Lord. That should be our real vocation in life. Chanting and letting everyone else hear the holy names of the Lord, and if they're capable of repeating Krishna's names, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now you're a real preacher. You're giving people an opportunity to chant Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Okay, so it's 9 o'clock, so we all should take rest early so we can wake up early and chant Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this book is called Dialectic Spiritualism. And you probably won't find it. You might get older copies of it in the internet. But it's a fantastic book because Prabhupada is asked questions about different philosophers and he gives answers, Krishna conscious answers to the philosophers' theories. Haribol.